I now turn to Ambassador R. Viswanathan, former Ambassador of India to Argentina, Uruguay and Paraguay. Incidentally, he was also Consul General of India in Sao Paulo. And I would request Ambassador to situate your remarks in a manner in which you cover what Ambassador Andres said, and perhaps also juxtapose Brazil's external relations in the immediate neighborhood to which Ambassador Andre had also referred, and also perhaps bring in Mexico. I know you follow that other country where I served. You follow it with great passion. So maybe you can situate Brazil in that broader context as well. Over to you. I request you to speak for about 15, 20 minutes, more if you like.
Boa tarde, Ambassador and amigos brasileiros. Parabéns. You have given a demonstration to this audience of this great Rio Branco trained Brazilian diplomacy. And until he pointed out, it was like listening to Indo-US relations or US without mentioning the word T. So you didn't mention B. So what I'm going to do is going to plunge into that. Okay, because everyone in this audience is an admirer, well-wisher of Brazil. And everyone got a surprise with this new worldview. Now, I want to place this in the context of the larger Brazilian spirit. You know, many of you would think that Brazil is undergoing its most challenging time now. It is not. Brazil had undergone much more serious challenges in the past. And with its great resilience of the Brazilian spirit, has come out, bounced back. Now, I will give you two instances. In 1961, there was a president called Jânio Quadros. He did something which you and I can't imagine. He imposed a ban on bikinis.
Brazil can live without UNSC membership.
Brazil can live without leadership of Latin America. Come on. Without bikinis in the beaches? And that President Jânio Quadros resigned in 8 months in 1961. 1962, the Brazilians composed Garota de Ipanema, the girl from Ipanema. And the girl from Ipanema continued to wear bikinis, passing Jânio Quadros. In fact, your experience of Brazil is incomplete without going to this bar called Garota de Ipanema, seeing the poem of Vinicius de Moraes, and watching and listening to the song. So Brazil came out from this ban on bikinis. That was the most profound civilizational challenge. Now, the second challenge came in 2002 in the neighborhood where I used to live in Sao Paulo, called Avenida Giovanni Gramsci, where there is an American school. Now, Lula was campaigning there in 2002. And he passed by the American school, where the rich kids go. And one of the kids said, "Vote for Lula." Lula got a shock. Everyone in his entourage got shocked. He said, "Come on, American school, rich kids. Somebody is supporting me." So he was very curious. He called a little boy and said, "Filho, what is it? You taking me by surprise? Huh? Coming from a rich family, I'm in the Workers' Party, you're supporting me." So this boy said, Senor Lula, my father told me that if you come to power, you will destroy business and industry and economy of this country. So he will shift the family and business to Miami. I love Miami. Now, that was a crucial time because, you see, if the recent history of Brazil, after coming out of dictatorship in the 80s, 2000, Brazil, a new Brazil was emerging. And Fernando Henrique Cardoso, one of the most intellectual and cerebral president, a sociologist, he became president. He stabilized the country, the economy, and made it a spot of mainstream of the world. The country was doing well. And at that time, for the Brazilian electorate to go for a drastic change, to elect a leftist, extremist leftist who had never held any office last 3 times, why would the Brazilians choose somebody instead of José Serra, who was a sensible continuation of Cardoso's policies? So people thought, no, Brazilians wouldn't make this kind of wrong choice when everything is going good. Why should you go to an extremist leftist Lula? And the Brazilians did exactly that. They voted him. And I'll give a little comparison of the context. I was in Caracas at that time. In fact, I was playing golf in Maracaibo in April 2002. 2002. I got an urgent call saying that come over immediately. There's demonstrations outside the embassy and the residence. Okay. A coup was going on in Caracas, April 2002. And even the military, parts of military came out against Chavez. And Chavez was on the line with the Cubans who were advising him. And Chavez wanted to fight like Simon Bolivar and die a martyr. But the Cubans advised him, don't be foolish. You will live to fight another day. Surrender, find a way out. So how do you find a way out? One of the mechanisms is to go to Papal Nuncio, the embassy of Vatican, who would be the intermediate. So Chavez called the Papal Nuncio from his house. But the Papal Nuncio was on leave. And his number 2 was a Malayali priest. And Chavez didn't understand any of what he was saying. So he couldn't work out a compromise. Anyway, some generals came and picked him up from the palace, took him to an island and put him in jail. He was there for 48 hours outside. But the poor Venezuelan general, they lost the expertise of doing coup. They did it in a very amateurish way. They didn't hold the palace or the barracks, and the guy who came to power called Carmona, a businessman, he was fighting with the other businessmen who will hold oil, finance and that kind of thing. And they didn't give a share to the military, because of which alone the coup succeeded. So the generals thought, hey guys, we are doing all this for you to take away everything. Okay, let's bring Chavez back. They brought him back. Now, this was 2002, when there was this pink tide was starting, and Chavez was the earliest. And so they thought Lula would become a Chavez of Brazil. And at this time, the great mature Brazilians elected Lula. And Lula lived up to that. He is, in 2010, Brazil had the highest growth, 7.5% of GDP. Immediately after the global financial crisis, when Wall Street had crumbled, Brazil grew by 7.5%. He had brought about 30 million people out of poverty line. The business was very happy. Brazilian companies were becoming global champions. And the climax of this was in 2010, when Petrobras issued an IPO, 70 billion US dollars, the world's largest at that time. It was oversubscribed. And Lula said, hey guys, this IPO was not done in London, not in New York, not in Frankfurt or Hong Kong. It was done in our own very Sao Paulo. $70 billion. So Brazil had arrived, and he took it to the next stage. Mercosur, UNASUR, CELAC, showed regional leadership and also a bit of global leadership. You want to do something in Iran. So Brazil had arrived in 2010, the climax. And thanks to the wise and pragmatic, mature Brazilian electorate. When Lula reached the dance floor, he called us, the Indians, come, let's do samba. We couldn't resist. So we went there. And then both governments pushed top down the business and everyone to interact, collaborate, explore. And people discovered new synergies and complementarities which didn't exist earlier. Or people thought, the economists, conventional economists thought India and Brazil, they are competitors, we make shoes and dress for the Westerners. There is no complementarity. This was put upside down. We did a trade of over $10 billion in 2011. And you'll be surprised. The largest component of that was import of crude oil by Reliance and export of diesel, over $3 billion. People started, business started discovering each other. And it went to even extents which you and I can't imagine. I'll give you two examples. And I was there was a lady called Clélia Cecilia Angelon, a Brazilian woman from Sao Paulo. She, as a young girl, had gone to London looking for work. She found a job in a shop run by a Malhotra. She did very well, and the poor Malhotra lost his wife. She divorced her, they married, and she brought him to Sao Paulo. And then she thought, okay, now that I'm married to this Indian guy, let me see what I can do with the Indian. So in one of her trips, she saw henna powder. It was great. So she imported henna powder to Brazil, marketed it, did well. But she was smart. She said, oh, why import henna powder? She stopped the imports. She imported the raw materials, ingredients, and made her own brand called Surya Henna. Surya Henna, the name of the company is Surya Henna Brazil. She marketed in Brazil, Argentina, Venezuela, all the way to the United States. Built a business of $20 million. And guess what? She's exporting to India. She has a plan to produce the Surya Henna, her brand in India, for exports to Japan, this area. There's another guy. He discovered even something more interesting. His name is Janderson Oliveira de Fernandes from Sao Paulo. This guy, he was a little strange in his childhood. He used to get dreams, and in his dreams he used to get some wise old man with a big beard appearing in Himalayas. But he worked in meat factories and so on, so he didn't give much thought. Then at the age of 32 he got married. Then he came to India for his honeymoon. Didn't like very much. The dust, poverty, misery. It was not attractive. It was not what he imagined. And somebody said, oh, before taking the plane, let's go to Rishikesh. So they drove from Haridwar to Rishikesh. Mountain road, lots of potholes, and there are vibrations. More than the vibrations caused by the ambassador car. Start getting vibrations. Reached Rishikesh. Someone took him to an ashram called Satchadam Ashram. And there they introduced him to the Guru. And he saw, remember, he was the guy who used to appear in my dreams. Fell on his feet, surrendered, looked at his wife and said, bye. Ciao. He renounced marriage, became a celibate, sent his wife back. And he changed from his Brahma beer to Ganga Jal. Stopped drinking Brahma beer. Went through rigorous, authentic training. He did so well. And this is one of the authentic ashrams, Satchadam Ashram. The fourth guru who trained him when he was about to die, he said, well, I want to make you as the guru. Of course, I'll come to that. So, he made him as the fifth guru of Satchadam Ashram in Rishikesh and gave him a new name, Sri Prem Baba. Sri Prem Baba. Now, Prem Baba himself says, you are not chosen as guru. It's the gurus choose you. So he was chosen. And today he is one of the most high-profile, jet-setting, authentic Indian spiritual disseminator. Imagine, Sri Prem Baba, a Brazilian, a Brahma beer drinking Brazilian, happy-go-lucky. He has ashrams in 12 countries, Argentina, Israel, United States, here. He stays for 3 months in Rishikesh. And guess what? He speaks only in Portuguese. No English. Isn't it amazing? You know, an Indian product, henna, and an Indian product called spiritualism, being marketed worldwide by this entrepreneur, committed, faithful, interesting Brazilians. This is the new synergy. This is the new complementarity, where India and Brazil add value to each other. Now, I don't worry about Bolsonaro, what he says, because, as I said, Brazil is much bigger. Brazilian spirit is more resilient. There are fundamental reasons, advantages, uniqueness of Brazil as a major global power which no other country has. Brazil is the only country with the least negatives and the most positives. The least sins. Borg said there is no sin south of border, south of equator. Okay. So, Brazil is the country with the least liabilities, most assets. Brazil is the only major power which has not fought a war, attacked another country, nor attacked by another country in the last 150 years. Every other country has done. Brazil is the only country which did not attack or not attack. There is no external threat. This is at Rio Branco. He fixed the borders, and the neighbors were so happy, they even named some places after him in Uruguay and other places. Now, the biggest challenge for the Brazilian armed forces is to find an enemy. Which country? Which country in the world wants to attack Brazil? And do they want to impose anything like China or Russia or Washington consensus? No. They don't want to impose anything on others. And do they have any major problems like we and China have? Food insecurity, energy insecurity? No, they have nothing. They have the least insecurities. They are secure. And God has been very kind to them. Brazil has the capacity to bring another 40 million hectares of land into agriculture without touching Amazon and feed another 400 million population. They are the 20% of the world's freshwater resource. And they are lucky. In India, sugarcane is a water-intensive crop. In Brazil, they grow sugarcane without irrigation. Rain comes at the right time. And they have the biggest hydroelectric plant. Now it's the third largest. And, they don't have a problem like volcanoes in Guatemala, or cyclones in Japan, or no natural disasters. Nothing. And they have perfect climate. South a bit cooler, north a bit warmer, and fertile land. And they have minerals. Iron ore, copper, gold, you name it, they have it. Oil, after the discovery of pre-salt, Brazil is a net exporter. In fact, they export more than Venezuela and Mexico now. They've got over 20 billion barrels of resource. And still they had to touch shale. And they provide oxygen to the world. Amazon. So, they don't need anything. And they don't have too much of a population like the Indians do, or the Chinese to send out. 200 million people, 3 times more area than India. Anyway, Brazilian feels proud and be at home. He doesn't have to go out and make money and prove himself. He's perfectly happy and content. And it is not at all God-given. The Brazilians have some man-made achievements. Mato Grosso do Sul, that area, it was considered as unfit for agriculture. But thanks to Embrapa, the great talented agricultural scientist, today it is the second largest producer of grains in Brazil. During the oil crisis, Brazil and we were in the same position in the 70s. We imported oil, $40 a barrel, and we keep importing more. But Brazil did this smart thing. They were the global pioneer and leader in fuel ethanol. They have reduced the consumption of petrol by 50%. And they have flexi fuel engines and flexi sugar ethanol factories. Depending upon whichever it goes, they can produce more sugar or more ethanol, use more alcohol or more petrol in the cars. And of course, Embraer is a great story by itself, because it is not, they don't make all the parts. Brazil did a very smart thing, creating an ecosystem of partnering with people who produce aeroplane parts. Come there, do joint research and development, encourage the guys from Embraer to become subcontractors. Our HAL and Embraer started around the same time. But today Embraer is the third largest producer of passenger vehicles. And they produced world-class companies like Petrobras has the most advanced technology in deep sea drilling. And there are world-class companies like WEG Motors, there are JBF, who are teaching Americans how to produce meat. And about Brazil Foods. So, I don't worry about the B word, because Brazil has the capacity, the resources, and the resilience to survive temporary changes. Even when you're talking about temporary changes, I'm a bit heartened because Bolsonaro was in Jerusalem. He didn't change the embassy. Better sense prevailed. And he went to Taiwan during his campaign. And now his foreign minister is taking a delegation to China. But the most interesting thing is, people talk about military and so on. It is the military which is holding his hand. It is the vice president and the military setup who are discouraging him from doing something in Venezuela or doing other adventures. So I'm very optimistic. I like the big word B, Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you, Vish, for that extraordinary set of remarks.